Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Sneha Ru. I'm a palliative physician and I'm the founder of Ori Kalankini. Ori Kalankini is an organization that's changing narratives around menstruation and sexuality in India using art, theatre and dialogue. So this series is called Leaning into the Network series, where we're bringing people from different parts of our network to meet each other and share their journeys, share skills, or speak specifically on topics related to recent happenings. And today we are super excited to have Shashwati and Mahika with us today from Breakthrough India. So hi, thank you for accepting and coming.
Thank you for inviting us.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about Breakthrough India itself and what you guys do, and then we go on to the actual conversation.
Mike, you want to go ahead?
Okay, sure. So we are a women's rights NGO and we work from an awareness building perspective where we work towards changing hearts and minds that enable the discourse and discussion and narratives and challenge norms where violence against women and girls is unacceptable. We do this on ground and we do this online as well. And we are currently working in 5 states where we are kind of building, where we are working on this norm challenging routine. And these states are Delhi, Bihar, Jharkhand, Haryana, and Uttar Pradesh. Shashwati, you want to add something?
We've pretty much covered everything, but yeah, we've been around for like a while, since I think 1999, 2000. And we've worked on many spheres of violence against women. In the lockdown and everything, we've been actually concentrating on, focusing on domestic violence. So that's what we've been talking about the last few months. So
I must mention this. We started off with a music video titled Man Ke Manjeere.
Yeah.
And that's how Breakthrough began, with a music video.
Yeah. And also Bell Bajao campaign, which is widely known everywhere, is from Breakthrough India. So we're very happy that you could give 1 hour of your time to us to talk about what rape culture is, and especially in the context of recent boys' locker room. I wouldn't call it incident because it's just one of which came out, but it's like a large whole
culture out there. Yeah.
Right. So, but I will start with the first ritual question we have. We ask everybody who comes on this platform to say when were you made aware of your gender? So, आपको कब बोला गया कि आप ये gender हैं, आप ऐसा करिए, ऐसा मत करिए?
So with me, it began when I was a teenager, in fact. When the moment I kind of hit puberty, that's when things actually changed. A lot of things changed for me. Where the idea of segregating yourself from boys was first introduced to me. And it was a very strange, it's a very strange place to be when this is all very new to you, when when it's very sudden. And the idea of reputation, watch how you dress, each time go ghar aana, all of that began when I was a teenager. I was constantly, the moral policing began then. And yes, reputation was very, very pervasive. And when asked, why is the reputation only pervasive here? That's when I was told it's because you're a girl and you have to kind of watch how you conduct yourself. It happened in the family and it happened in school. Now, but where credit due to my family is concerned, my family has always encouraged me to challenge systematic injustices. They've always asked me to think along the lines of equality, and they always encourage me to have dreams and ask me to never lessen myself or downplay myself in accordance with what society thinks we need.
As for me, it was probably around when I was 7 or 8. I remember because I used to like tinker with electronic stuff a lot, and my father used to be like, "Oh, look at her, she's just like a boy." And the idea that I was, a girl, and in that case, dissimilar to a boy, came around at that point. So a lot of other it was a very strange experience because it was a two-way street. On one hand, my family never stopped me from doing anything, boyish or not. On the other hand, I was constantly reminded that the things that you're doing are not what girls do. So, oh, you like playing video games? That's good, you're allowed to do it. But also, this is not what girls do. So it was a very strange dichotomy that was happening. So I was aware of my gender as such at a very, very young age. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. See, this conversation started for me when I was like, I think 2, 3. It was about, I was brought up for the first 2 years with around my grandparents. So it was like, "Tu chori hai, do that, don't do this. Pacho nahi bolno, like you shouldn't back answer." So
Oh, yeah.
it was very, very young. You asked to sit properly, even as a kid, and when you're
Yeah.
playing with yourself, and you asked to not play. So yeah, it's super interesting to see, when it began.
Yeah.
Now
Close your
coming,
legs and sit.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
Close your
Put your
legs
legs
and sit.
together.
very important. Coming to today's conversation, so recently it just became public that there existed, there are many existing forums like that, but there existed one Instagram account group called Boys Locker Room, and horrendous things that were discussed there became public, and people were aghast that their classmates are in that group and were in that group for a very, very long time. We all started getting worried about online security. We started doing other things, but the conversation around the inherently present rape culture was very brought out very less. So that's the reason I want to ask you, for a layperson, how would you explain what rape culture is? Because it's so pervasive, we don't notice it. So sometimes it helps if you could word it out for us.
Yeah.
So to define rape culture in like the simplest possible terms, it's literally like a culture where violence against women, or any kind of, like, especially against women, is so pervasive and so normal that it's acceptable. Like, it's the norm. So it's present in the really small things that we do that we don't realize. People get a little confused when they hear the word rape culture because they immediately associate it with rape automatically, but it begins with the really smallest things. It begins with the misogynistic texts and jokes that we pass in our family WhatsApp groups. It begins with the way we talk about women. It begins with the way we are hostile to survivors of sexual violence. It begins with the way we say that, what was she wearing, right? When somebody talks about their incident, or we say things like boys will be boys. All of these things are rape culture. Sometimes when we say when we say that joke wasn't funny, if somebody makes a rape joke and we think that's not funny, and somebody says you don't have a sense of humor or it's just a joke, let it go. But that's also literally rape culture. It starts with something as small as that. You want to have anything to add, Michael?
Yeah, I just wanted to add one line here. Rape culture is also something that manifests in us as women, in the sense that the amount of time and energy we spend in dressing a certain way, avoiding going out after dark, avoiding certain public spaces that have your reputation, and just how our schedule is just designed to avoid assault or harassment, and that it's a very normalized everyday part of life, like it's not treated as that anomaly it should be.
Right.
And just to add like one bit, which I just realized, like in the last few years, we had the Me Too movement, right? And it was a huge thing. It was the India Me Too movement, and there was the global Me Too movement. The fact that sexual violence or harassment is such a normal thing for women, but we had to have like a trending hashtag and a movement throughout the world to tell people, yes, this happens. That's pretty much evidence that rape culture is a thing.
Right. Yeah. And then we have to follow it up with another movement like Believe Survivors.
Yeah.
Because only that is also not enough. Because
we're just trying to shift people into like a normal gear, because people are automatically into disbelieve, don't believe, be hostile. It's just like that's what rape culture is, because everything's oriented towards the negative.
right. Yeah.
Or if not, it's silenced.
Yeah.
It is not a shock to people. It isn't really a shock or a surprise to people. They know it happened, but they choose to look the other way because why take the trouble of dealing with it? Like जब सब ऐसे ही चल रहा है तो चलने दो. That's the assumption.
Hmm. Hmm. You did mention that you gave one or two examples, but if you could go deeper in that, who forms this rape culture, and how little bit examples around that. कि कौन है इसके पीछे?
Okay, okay. So I can break it down a little bit in the sense that our various stages of socialization that happens to us in our lives. Okay, to begin with the family. The family is where we learn archaic gender roles. Okay, father will work and then come home, and then he is going to be served by the women and girls in the family who stayed home and done domestic chores all day, not which is not considered as work. And also the way the father in families takes on a more dominant, aggressive pattern of behavior, and that he gives instructions, everybody else is expected to comply. And basically when then this is something that gets normalized. And while we are on the subject of family, within the ambit, obviously I am generalizing a bit here, but I'm just talking about a pattern that happens. Now within the family, if there are instances of sexual violence or something, the normative assumption is it can't happen. ये बुजुर्ग लोग है, ये इज्जत का आदमी है, it cannot happen. Just on the merit of the family member being a man or being a family member, irrespective of who does it. And then again, and while we are on the topic of family, this is a country that does not wish to acknowledge marital rape. So that's one. The second thing is school, like I had previously mentioned, the segregation starts between girls and boys. This otherization happens, and school is also where frat boy culture, jock culture, this kind of is given birth to. And this that's where also we encourage ideas of toxic masculinity, that an aggressive, violent, dominant type of masculinity is the ideal place to be, and everything else that does not fall into that idea is weaker, and consequently being weaker, it's the feminine. That's where it begins. And then in our everyday conversations where rape jokes are just treated as no big deal. And then a last example that I would like to give is pop culture. Like this is a very popular line in Bollywood cinema. Isko to sabak sikhana padega. For girls who have their own opinions, or who say no to a proposition. Isko to the taunt, not the taunt, the threat of sexual violence, which is needed to domesticate her. When I was in school, this song titled Balatkari was a fashion statement, singing it. And yes, then, and of course, the more recent example that I can give is Kabir Singh, where aggression is something that is romanticized. Kabir Singh was not looked at as a villain, he was looked at as a romantic tragic hero.
You want to go ahead, Shashwati? We have anything to add?
It's pretty much like added all the points that I wanted to add. So I'm good.
And how do women contribute to the rape culture? One is, you did mention that when we are dressing up or behaving to avoid rape, we are not accessing certain places because it's literally very dangerous for us, right? We could be killed and burnt if we have to see Dr. Priyanka's case recently. So are we playing a role also apart from protecting ourselves? And then how do we do that thing? How, if I have to not contribute to it, then what do I have to do?
Men, as anybody else who is part of patriarchy, can internalize and enable rape culture just the same as anyone. I mean, speaking from experience, like when we went to school, there was like a two-way street thing happening. I remember this because as women, we also internalize the narrative that if another woman dressed a certain way, or if she behaved like a quote-unquote slut, then she also she had the asking for it thing. I remember there was this really terrible moment, which I'm using as an example, was I remember that in my neighborhood when I was like 16 years old, there was a woman who was sexually harassed or assaulted. I don't exactly remember. And I remember my neighbors saying that she was really beautiful, as if this was a contributing factor to her assault. And I remember